All right then. Hello everyone, and you cannot imagine how thrilled I am to finally see you here at Amsterdam, at Vuejs Amsterdam, and going up to the stage, speaking with you up to the stage, and you cannot imagine how many things can go wrong if you go to a stage. Like the questions on, do I find the stage? Do I find the right entrance? Will I stumble or trip over my own 2 feet? Traps over traps, and that's basically what I want to talk with you about. I want you to get to know all the things I screwed up in testing. And yeah, I know, that sounds harsh, but I hope I was able to learn from my mistakes. And I hope I can take you with me to learn from my wrongdoings, or maybe even prevent you from being so misguided as I was back then. All right, I was. Who am I? Well, let me introduce myself really quick. My name is Ramona. I'm working as a software developer at JSWORLD, which is a company providing an open source e-commerce system. But I have a couple of years experience when it comes to quality assurance. So yeah, I became a Cyprus ambassador, a Women Tech Maker ambassador, and now I'm here. But please, let's stop talking about me, enough of that. Let's get finally started. All right. I want to start with a little story of my childhood. Well, I'm a movie nerd, a heavy movie nerd, unfortunately, so there are a couple of movies I loved watching in my childhood. And as an adult now, I cannot resist to watch them again and again and again and again and again. And one of those movies, or more to say, one of the franchises is Star Wars. So let's take a look at the 1983 Star Wars film Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. There was one particular quote which stuck into my head when it comes to testing. Yeah, I mean testing. It's a trap. And let's put this bad mimicking of me by side because I'm really bad at it. It's still an honorable quote. It was said by Admiral Akbar, the leader of the Mon Calamari rebels. And they, let me take a little closer look at the scene. They tried to, or basically the aliens mobilized its forces in a concerted effort to destroy the Death Star. If you don't know what the Death Star is, it was a huge spaceship being capable of destroying planets, so no good companion, I guess. Well, Admiral Akbar encountered an unexpected ambush during that, and there he said it's a trap. Well, that's a nice story, right? You might wonder now, well, Ramona, what does it have to do with testing? Well, the answer is quite easy. I guess it's a nice allegory when it comes to testing because, of course, you might be sure or you might discover if you take a look at testing that it has many perks and advantages. But all of those wonderful things, which you will learn one day later actually, can be outshadowed though by pain points caused by lots of various reasons. And many of those could be considered traps and feel like an ambush. All the things you did in the best intent, but, well, in the long run or even earlier, they turned out painful or exhausting or frightening or just plain bad. And yeah, I encountered some pain points as well. First and foremost, having slow tests. To be honest with you, sometimes I'm not that patient as I want to be. And if I have my pull request and I want it to be merged, and I need to wait hours and days and basically sleeping in because I'm waiting for the pipeline to finally be completed, that's bad. And it's not always per purpose because there might be time pressure for the team lead or the team or your motivation. You want it to be merged, and slow tests can really kill the fun then when it comes to testing. But there's one thing which is even worse. I'm talking about tests which are painful to maintain. Think about your past self. Past Mo, what did you do with this test? And I can say, I don't know. It's old, it's complicated, it's outdated. What did I thought with that one? Or other bad conscious or team members who are asking me questions about things I did in the past and I have no clue. But that's still not the worst pain point. The worst one being, or the Empaths as I like to call it, are tests to give you no value, no clear result because they're flaky. We have a build which is passing at the first try, then failing, then passing again, passing a couple of times, passing, and then it's failing. and you did nothing in between. 1/white, it's nightmare for you, trust me, you don't want to have this. But it don't need to be this way. So let's take a look of the best of testing traps I myself failed at, and how to make it better, how to make it fun, and how to show you that testing don't need to be painful. All right. I want to start with a little mindset thing. Please think about the situation. Maybe you find yourself familiar, maybe not, but your brain is full with the main production code, with your task, with your implementation. You cannot think about anything else because it's exciting, it's challenging, it's the perfect feature to build or the perfect refactoring. But in this state, you have no headspace to have anything else. Especially, you have no headspace, no force, no power to think about testing. So eating much headspace can cause teams to abandon testing. And this can be solved. So exhausting tests can be solved by one quite simple thing. And I'm not the only one who thinks the following mindset is the most important and the highest priority. There's a guy named Uni Goldberg who described it as a golden rule in his JavaScript testing best practices. And this mindset is quite simple. Literally simple. Tests should be designed plain simple in every case, so it doesn't matter if you're writing unit tests, integration tests, end-to-end tests, whatever tests. Keep it stupid simple. So our goal should be that one is capable to understand your test and get its intent instantly without thinking about it. So try to aim for a flat test design, which means don't test as much, only test as much as needed. And this one is interesting. Use few to no abstractions at all. And yes, before you get me wrong, you should treat your test code like production code when it comes to care and priority and detail love and stuff like that. But in some cases, test code is not like production code. Because if, for example, taking care to have less duplicates and so on would make your test less comprehensible and give you trouble to understand it, it does more harm to you than it actually helping. So try to use few to no abstractions at all, and especially be cautious when it comes to helper classes, commands, custom commands, or page objects, to name a few examples. All right. I won't stay abstract as well, so let's get to some code examples here. I will start with unit and component tests using the tools Jest and Vue test utils. And you might think now, okay, she's not talking about Cyprus yet. Yeah, don't worry, that will come up later. And I won't cover introduction to testing as well, so please head over to Jessica's talk tomorrow when it comes to having component testing with Vue and Cyprus, so she will give you more details on that one. But without further ado, let's take a look at the first trap. Here you see an abstract of a test, and I know I really kept it short, but that's okay because it's just one part which is important here. The test itself should give an error if a deprecated property is in use. But please just only look at the title here, which I marked in the orange color. When you look at this title only, do you know what it wants to accomplish? Well, it should throw error, but, well, that's not that much of information, right? So remember a golden rule. You should know instantly what it's doing. All right. How can we make it more comprehensible? Let's take a look. I want to introduce you to the three-part rule by Roy Osheroff, which will help you keeping clear what your test wants to cover and wants to accomplish. So after this, according to this rule, a test title should contain three things, like the first, what is being tested? In this case, it's the property. Second one, under what circumstances should be tested? So the usage of the deprecated property in this case. And last but not least, what is the expected result? So what do we achieve with those tests? And this way, Longcat, oh sorry, test name is long, I know, but Longcat likes long test names, and so am I, because you can see the result of the test in first sight. You don't need to read through lots of logs or your screenshots or your videos or your dashboard or whatever you use to debug. You can see, especially in unit testing, exactly what is failing if your test fails. And this can cause you to save lots of time. All right, next one. Look at this test. It should open the context menu on click. It's one I choose from my daily doing. Do you see and get it in first sight? If yes, props to you, this is really awesome. But if not, that's totally fine, because you could say that the test structure is a mess. Declarations, assertions, action, everything is written all over the place without any clear structure. Of course, this is a small one, but especially in bigger tests, this can be a huge pain. So, how can we change this test to get it easier? Well, let me introduce the AAA pattern to you, or incomplete, in full, arrange, act, assert. So you basically divide your test into 3 parts again. It's like the rule of 3, which is good, right? The first one is the arrange part, so basically everything concerning the setup to bring your system or to the scenario the test aims to simulate. So this could be declarations of variables or stopping, locking, basically anything you need to set up. Next up, it's the actions. So basically running your unit under test and doing your steps, actions, etc. to get to your result state. And last but not least, it's quite self-explanatory. It's the assert part, where you can do the assertions and checks of your test scenario. So this is quite neat and another way of designing your test in a simple way. But think back to our test case here. It's a context menu. It's hidden by default, so we need to open it to interact with it. But doesn't that mean we need to do an assertion to make sure that it's open before we act? And doesn't this destroy the pattern? Should we do another thing in this case, especially when it comes to unit testing and bigger tests? If we're testing the DOM, as we're doing here, we need to check the before and after state, sometimes before and after an action. So, what should we do now? Well, let's take a look into the arrange, act, assert pattern from another, slightly different perspective. So first, arrange my test. So this is the scenario with all the preconditions, and this is what I'm giving before I'm testing. Second one, again, you remember the actions, act in my tests, when something happens inside of the test, right? And last but not least, we are at the things we want to assert being the intent of the test. So something happens, basically, and already happened. So this is what I expect as the outcome. And there are some little keywords hidden inside of those sentences. The keywords are given, when, then. And yes, this is our new pattern. We could take a little look. It's taken from behavior-driven development and made by Daniel Tejas and Chris Math. And it's called given, when, then pattern. Quite simple, right? So if you used Gherkin before, you might find yourself familiar with it. But if not, you could use without it. And it's quite nice. So let's take a look at our prior example now with the usage of the given, when, then pattern. So sorry for this roll of text here, but I guess it showcases it quite well. You have the given part, where again you set the variables, or you can do everything you need to set up. Then the second one is the when part, where you do all the prerequisites with the assertions you might need. So mixing up actions and assertions is completely fine here. And then it's the then part, with the main assertion it is. So it's still a well-structured test, which you can get at first sight, but more suitable for our situation, right? All right, so finally, Cyprus. So welcome to my favorite personal best of E2E, testing failures. Woohoo! Because while you are simulating a user when it comes to E2E test, so basically you're test clicking things and interacting like a normal user would do, you need the full application stack present. And this means more stack equals more possibilities of ambushed traps or errors. So let's take a look. And for the first trap, we got a little guest. So say hello to BB8. And BB8 is quite clueless here because he found a name which might be familiar to us, but not to him, right? It's called foobar. Of course, we as developer, we know what foobar means, right? It's a placeholder. But if you see it in a test, do you directly know what it stands for? Is it a product? Is it a name? Is it a customer? Is it a user? Whatever. So again, if you use much of those placeholders, your test might be more difficult to be understandable, right? All right, how can we fix it? And that's not the most difficult thing on earth. It's basically using realistic naming. Let's take a look at this Cyprus test. It's an end-to-end test, which should check if a product can be created in an online shop and afterwards can be used in the checkout. Of course, I cut it down for the most relevant parts, of course, but in it, I want to use names and placeholder to connect it to a real product. For example, the t-shirt is called T-shirt Akbar, or the manufacturer could be called Space Company, or something like that. So you could even think, okay, if I don't want to come up with like 1,000 of names, maybe I'm using Faker or other tools to generate some demo data. Or if it's okay with the laws and with your project, import it from your production state. Just in making sure that your test stays comprehensible and easy to read and you know what it does. All right, let's take a look at the same test for the next trap. Did you notice these selectors? Those are CSS selectors. And you might wonder now, okay, what's the matter with those? I can use them, they are unique, they are neat, I can work with them just fine. But could they be problematic? Think about if you refactor your application, change some classes, this could cause your test to fail. So yeah, CSS selectors are prone to change. And in this case, a test failing without a bug present in your application is called a false negative, giving no reliable report of your application at all, because it's not broken, right? Just your implementation changed. It gives you no value again. So, how can we solve this? Look at selectors, you must. Or in other words, you shouldn't test implementation details. Instead, think about using things a user would call attention to when navigating your application. For example, some text inside of your page, or something like that. And the other, even better, in my opinion, use selectors which are not that prone to change. I'm thinking about data attributes. I love data attributes because it's not that likely that my fellow developers will change those. Or I can call it data Cy for Cyprus or data test, so you instantly know, oh, this is meant for testing. I keep my fingers away from it. Or I can document that I should do. All right, last but not least, I know my team members in the audience will say, oh, she's starting with this again, because I think they know me complaining about this one. It's a topic I cannot stress enough, so I need to bring it up here, so sorry for that, but it's really important. Don't ever use fixed waiting times, please. Because in the best case, especially in this case, just to showcase it a little bit, it's a custom command which pictures a step which is used a lot inside of some test suite of my projects. In this case, the usage of a custom select. And it will be executed, I guess, some 100 times, surely a lot. And in this case, in the best case, this fixed waiting time will slow down my tests way too much. And this slowdown is not necessary at all. But it could be worse. So think about your application being under load or using not that high-performant hardware. And you need more than 500 milliseconds. What happens then? Your test will get flaky. It will sometimes fail. And you really don't want to debug that, trust me. So fortunately, there are plenty of things to do to avoid fixed waiting times. All of those center around waiting dynamically. Let me showcase my two favorite ways of waiting for things inside of my tests. The first one, just doing it similar to the point before, waiting for changes in the UI of your application. This could be a loading spinner to disappear, or an animation to stop, or something to appear, some styling change, whatever, as long as it's dynamically. Or even better, wait for API requests and their responses. So this is quite efficient because you know that the data is there before you proceed, right? Cyprus provides you neat features for that, so this is an example for Cyprus. But there are other frameworks who do that as well. So this way, no matter how dynamically you wait, as long as you wait dynamically, your test will stay stable and reliable and fast by managing time efficiently like this bad boy here. All right. Let's go back to Admiral Akbar now, from Star Wars. The Battle of Endor turned out to be a success, of course, with teamwork and a lot of countermeasures. Please refer that to testing as well. It might be a lot to do, especially when it comes to legacy code, and it might need a change of mindset and, thus, lots of refactoring. But it will be worth it in the end because you avoid all those pain points. You have fast tests, you have reliable tests, you have funny tests, and you don't need to think about your tests that much because they are just there as an assistant to you, not a hindrance. And this point, this golden rule, is the one thing I want you to remember from my talk. Please refer to the golden rule if you design your test, if you write your tests. And please keep it comprehensible, simple, and easy to understand so you can concentrate on the things that matter to you, being wonderful applications, exciting refactorings, wonderful features. Tests should feel like a routine, not like solving a complex mathematical formula. So me and you and we all together, let's try our best to achieve that. Like here, R2D2 is catching bugs with ease. And I want you to feel like that as well. So like dealing with tests should feel lean and like fun. And sure, to be completely honest with you, I stepped into lots of other traps as well, but I wasn't able to fit it in the time frame. So if we manage to meet here at the conference, anywhere at the venue, or online, maybe let's talk about all the other wrongdoings I did before. And maybe, do you have traps as well? Did you run into one? Or did you have some pains when it comes to testing? Let's please talk with me about it, if we can. And yes, what else can I say then? Thank you. Thank you for your time and for listening to me. I hope I was helpful to you. And if you got questions, feel free to reach out at any time here at the conference or online, Twitter, wherever you find me. So thank you so much.